Spies and Allies, Chapter 4 of the Molly Learns a Lesson. Plip plop, plip plop, plip. Molly rolled over in bed and opened her eyes to a weepy wet day. The windows of her room were blurred like teary eyes. Oh no, she thought. What a day to be outside, going door to door collecting bottle tops. Molly got up and put on her spy outfit, dark blue corduroy pants, and a dark plaid shirt, and thumped down the stairs to the kitchen. On cold, rainy Saturdays, Molly's mother always made a warm breakfast. She believed children needed food that would stick to their ribs. Today she made thick, hot oatmeal. "Why are you wearing that good plaid shirt today?" Mrs. McIntyre asked Molly. "Mrs. Guilford just ironed it. Why don't you save it for school?" "I need to wear it today, Mom," said Molly, looking down at her shirt. "I'll be careful. We're working on our project." "What project is that?" Mrs. McIntyre asked. She put a bowl of oatmeal in front of Molly and another one in front of Ricky. Ricky began pouring honey on top of his oatmeal with one hand and filling a glass with tomato juice with the other. "It's for school," said Molly. "Linda and Susan and I are doing a Linda Hand project. Everyone is doing something for the war effort this weekend. There's a contest to see who has the best project." "Well, that sounds very worthwhile," said Miss McIntyre. "Sounds like a dumb elementary school contest to me," said Ricky. He was in the 7th grade. "What are you triple dips going to do? Sign up to be monkeys in the zoo?" Ricky pretended his spoon was a banana and began to peel it. "Whoop, whoop, whoop," he said as he scratched the top of his head like a chimpanzee. "That's enough, Ricky," said Mrs. McIntyre. "Very funny," said Molly. "That wouldn't help to win the war. For your information, we have a very good project." "Yeah, what is it?" Ricky asked. "I can't tell." "I can't tell," mimicked Ricky in a high voice. "Well, just don't touch any of my stuff." Ricky pointed to himself with a hand that was holding the glass of tomato juice, which some of the juice sloshed over the edge of the glass onto his shirt. Ricky clutched the red stain. "Oh, you got me," he said. He jerked his head back, closed his eyes, and slumped off the edge of the chair onto the floor. "Dead," he said. Molly giggled. "Off with that shirt, young man," Mrs. McIntyre said calmly. "That juice will stain if I don't get rid of it right away." As Ricky took off his shirt, Molly rinsed off her oatmeal bowl at the sink, dried her hands, and went to the closet to get her school bag, raincoat, and hat. "Boots, too," said Mrs. McIntyre without looking up from the sink. Molly groaned. She didn't think real spies had to wear boots. But she took hers out of the closet and sat on the kitchen floor to put them on. Molly had not used her boots since last winter, and they were a little dusty. The toe of her saddle shoe went in, but no matter how she yanked and pulled and pushed, her whole shoe would not fit inside her boot. She got up and hip-hopped over to her mother. "Look, Mom," she said, "my boots won't go over my new saddle shoes. I guess I can't wear boots today." Mrs. McIntyre knelt down and tried to wiggle the boot onto Molly's foot. It would not budge. "Well," she said as she stood up, "you can't wear these. They're too small for you now." "I'll have to get new ones," said Molly. "Maybe I can get red boots this year." Mrs. McIntyre stood up. She fastened the top button of Molly's raincoat. "I'm afraid not, dear," she said. "There are no rubber boots in the stores. I've looked. They're not being made." "But why?" asked Molly. "Because of the war," her mother said. "The rubber is needed to make things for the fighting men. Things like life rafts for the battleships and life jackets for sailors. There just isn't enough rubber left over to make red rubber boots for 9-year-old girls." Mrs. McIntyre leaned to the closet. "You'll have to wear Ricky's boots today." She held up Ricky's old black boots. "My boots?" said Ricky. "She's going to wear my boots?" "But, Mom," said Molly, "those are boys' boots. They're ugly. They're—" "Molly," Mrs. McIntyre interrupted, "think of it as a sacrifice you're making for the war effort." She handed the boots to Molly. Molly sighed. She took the boots. "And don't wreck them," said Ricky, "or get perfume on them or anything." Molly and her mother had to laugh. "Don't worry, I won't," Molly said. She pulled on Ricky's boots. They were clumsy, heavy boots with rusted buckles. The buckles fastened up the front and not on the side like girls' boots. They were a little bit too big, so Molly clomped like a horse as she made her way to the door. "Goodbye, Mom," she said. "I probably won't be home for lunch. We'll be too busy to stop." "All right," said Mrs. McIntyre. "Be careful. Don't go into a stranger's house. Be home by 3 o'clock. "Okay," said Molly. She went outside. Linda and Susan were coming up the driveway. Susan waddled like a fat yellow duck under her big red umbrella. "My mother made me wear 2 sweaters under my raincoat," she complained. "I could hardly move." My mother wouldn't let me wear my dark shirt, said Linda. She didn't have time to wash it. She's been working the late shift at the factory. And I have to wear these horrible boots of Ricky's, said Molly. Oh, well, let's get started. She held up her school bag. I hope this bag is big enough to hold all the bottle tops, she said. Can't we take a break? Asked Susan. I'm so hot. I'm so cold, said Linda. We can't take a break because we haven't started yet, said Molly. Come on. Real secret agents have to work in the rain all the time. There were 7 houses on Molly's block. The girls trudged up to each one, rang the doorbell, and asked for bottle tops. At the first house, Mrs. Silvano said she didn't have any bottle tops, but did they want old newspapers? They said no, thank you very much. Billy Rickenstein answered the door at the next house. He was only 4. He said yes, they did have bottle tops, and he ran off and came back with the top still connected to a whole bottle of ginger ale. The girls told him the top had to be off the bottle already, but thanked him very much. They walked on to the Kolosky's house. Mrs. Kolosky said she had 2 bottle tops, or Mr. Kolosky. He had 2 bottle tops, but he needed them himself. He was a Boy Scout troop leader, and the Boy Scouts were collecting bottle tops for scrap metal too. Finally, Mrs. Keller gave them 6 bottle tops. She had been saving, but had never gotten around to turning in. And Mrs. Lemming gave them 4. She said if they wanted more, they should come back next Saturday because she was having a party then, and she'd have lots of bottle tops after the party. By the time they'd gone to all 7 houses on the block, they had cold hands, wet legs, tired feet, and 10 bottle tops in Molly's school bag. Let's count them, said Susan. She handed her umbrella to Linda. What for? Said Linda. We know perfectly well there are only 10. I know, but I want to see them, said Susan. She dug her hands into the school bag and pulled out 2 handfuls. Molly and Linda watched as she dropped the bottle tops into the bag one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She said as they clinked against each other. I didn't think it would be so hard to get 100. We'll just have to keep trying, said Molly. We can't give up now. Let's go to the next block. Bottle tops were scarce in the next block, too. No one was home at 2 houses, and at one house, a man came to the door in a painter's hat. He was spattered all over with blue paint. He said if he did have any bottle tops, he'd never be able to find them because the whole house was torn up and in a mess. The girls peeked past him to see if that was true. It was. One nice lady, holding a baby, gave them 2 apple juice bottle tops and let them shake hands with the baby. A smiling old lady said they were sweet girls and gave them each 1 bottle top. As they left, Molly noticed 2 blue stars hung in her window. She has 2 people from her family fighting in the war, Molly said. We have 1 blue star for my father, said Linda. The people next door have a gold star because their son got killed. Molly looked back at the old lady's house. It seemed to be waiting for happy, noisy young people to come back and fill it with fun again. At the next house, a teenage boy holding half a chicken sandwich pulled a bottle top out of his pocket, handed it to Molly, and closed the door without saying a word. Did you see that sandwich? Said Linda, as they headed down the walk. I am hungry. It's lunchtime. We have to stop now. Not yet, said Molly. We only have 16 bottle tops. I'm tired, said Susan. I can't go on any longer. Some secret agents you 2 make, said Molly. Her nose was runny. Ricky's boots were heavy. Come on, just 1 more block and then we'll take a break for lunch. Susan sighed. Linda shivered. Molly led the way across the street to the next block. Hey, you know who lives in this block? Linda asked. Allison Hargate. I know, said Molly. We just won't go to her house and ask for bottle tops. I bet Allison has lots of bottle tops, said Susan. The girls were now standing right in front of Allison's house. I know what. Let's go peek in the window at the knitting bee, said Linda. It'll be fun, just like real secret agents. Yes, said Susan. Let's spy on them. Molly hesitated. What if someone sees us? She asked. But Linda was already bent over, creeping behind a tall bush, heading toward a big window. Susan put her umbrella in the bush and followed Linda. Finally, Molly went too. She felt out of place standing on the sidewalk all alone. When she bent over to sneak behind the bushes, the rain dripped down the back of Molly's neck. It gave her goosebumps. Linda and Susan were on tiptoe, holding onto the window ledge, peering inside. Molly looked too. Oh, it was so warm and cozy in there. They were looking into Allison's living room, where a cheery fire blazed in the fireplace. All the other girls in their class were sitting Indian style in a circle on the rug. They had bright balls of yarn in their laps, long, slender knitting needles in their hands. The Hargate's maid knelt behind Grace Littlefield, in her big, capable hands, guiding Grace's on the needles. Allison was laughing, and all the other girls looked happy. Look at that tray of sandwiches, said Linda, and cocoa and cookies, too. It looks like fun, said Susan, wistfully. The yarn is pretty. I don't see any socks, said Molly. Look, Grace can even hold her needles right, Linda giggled. Well, what have we here? Boomed a voice very close by. The girls jumped. It was Mrs. Hargate, Allison's mother. She was standing right behind them, blocking their path back to the sidewalk, holding a big black umbrella. Drips from the umbrella hit Molly right on the cheek. Mrs. Hargate had on very red lipstick. You girls are late for the knitting bee, said Mrs. Hargate, but that doesn't matter. Come along. Allison was so worried when you didn't get here at 9 with all the other girls. She was afraid you weren't coming at all, but I told her that you'd never be so rude. You'd never miss out on all the fun and not help on the project. I said I was sure you'd turn up, and I was right. Here you are. Mrs. Hargate kept talking as she herded them inside like captured animals. Linda, Molly, and Susan didn't have time to say anything. Molly didn't know what to say anyway. Before they knew it, all three girls were standing in the Hargate's front hall, the water dripping off their coats and forming a small puddle around them.